Joining us right now to talk a little bit about what's been happening down in Austin, we have from the Texas Public Policy Foundation, Chuck DeVore. Chuck, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Chad. We've got tax week coming up here in Austin.
It is tax week.
Tax cut week.
Well, that sounds even better.
Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's going on this week as far as tax cuts and what's been discussed by lawmakers.
Well, the main thing that's going on right now in Austin is a battle between what type of taxes to cut. More or less, the legislature agrees that we're looking at probably a little more than $4 billion in taxes. The question is, what do you cut? Some folks would like to emphasize the business tax, or otherwise known as the margin tax, the franchise tax.
Right.
The challenge with that is not a lot of Texans pay it directly, even though, in fact, all Texans pay it in the form of higher costs for goods and services that they buy from businesses. Other folks are trying to emphasize the property tax. The challenge, though, with reducing property taxes is that you don't really pay your property taxes to the state. You pay them to the local government. And so in order to reduce property taxes, the state generally has to send money down to the local government to make up for the cut. And the challenge with that is it's really hard to make property tax cuts permanent, because if the state tries to lower it, there's no guarantee that the local governments, like your school boards, won't come back around after the fact and increase assessments, increase the percentage of taxes, and eventually you'll see that tax cut just disappear, which, by the way, happened back in 2007, the last time that we did some reform and some changes between the franchise tax and then reducing property taxes.
Yeah, and this is something that obviously, if people have been paying attention to some of the local leaders, no matter what city that you're in, it's almost it just about sounds like you've heard local leaders protest what some of these state lawmakers are talking about when it comes to cutting property taxes and limiting exactly how much in property taxes in a year they can raise.
Right. Now, that's a different proposal. That's by Senator Betancourt.
Right.
And that would not result in an immediate cut to property taxes, but it actually, over the long term, would probably result in lower property taxes in a more reliable way than the current proposals that would simply cut the property tax immediately. Now, the Betancourt bill makes it harder for local jurisdictions to see large increases in property tax revenue without giving voters the opportunity to vote to turn that down.
What do you think will be the big battle in Austin when it comes to taxes? Because you've got a lot of Republicans that want to cut taxes. That's really a big message that we've been hearing from the Senate. The House has been a little more quiet on the issue. There are definitely some House members that want to cut taxes, but as a whole, it's been the Senate that's really been talking about this. Where do these battle lines really shape up, do you think?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think there's two different battles going on. The first battle is whose taxes do you cut? Do you cut taxes for homeowners? Do you cut taxes for businesses, which of course then ripples out into the economy in the form of lower costs for goods and services and higher profits? And then how much do you cut? So there's arguments in both fronts. In other words, can we cut $2 billion? Can we cut $3 billion? Can we cut $4 billion? And then who benefits? Homeowners, big business, small business, some combination. The challenge, if you try to please too many people and you do modest cuts in different areas, is that you pass up the opportunity to fundamentally change a tax. For example, we have enough money we could just eliminate entirely the business margin tax, so we could then be the only state without a direct tax on business and without an individual income tax. That would certainly send a powerful signal for investors and job creators to come to Texas. But it would, for some elected officials, it would prevent them from making good on promises to cut taxes for homeowners. So in all likelihood, you're going to see a compromise.
Visiting with Chuck DeVore, Texas Public Policy Foundation. Chuck, you were at CPAC last week. I know you spent a lot of time in the Right on Crime booth, correct?
Well, absolutely. We had thousands of people at CPAC just outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland, next to the Potomac River, which was partially frozen when we flew in. And we saw a lot of discussion about conservative criminal justice reform and how we can improve public safety, reduce recidivism, and reduce the prison population at the same time, which is what we've been doing here in Texas for the past decade.
Yeah, well, tell our listener, for those who, maybe have not heard a lot about the Right on Crime project that is with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. I mean, this is something that has been, championed by a lot of conservatives out there and really rewriting some of the rules that some are looking at when it comes to crime.
Well, absolutely. If your listeners wish, they can go to rightoncrime.com and learn all about us. Essentially, what the concept of Right on Crime is if you're a conservative, you should probably be skeptical of government in all of its forms. So you should probably think that government is not as efficient or effective as it could be, and apply that skepticism across the board to things like the criminal justice system. And so what we've seen with Right on Crime is that it is possible to reduce the number of people in prison by reducing the recidivism rate. That's the rate at which people recommit crimes, and improving public safety at the same time. The way you do that is you put a little more money into treatment and rehabilitation and parole and probation and other programs to monitor people who have violated the law. And that, you find, is a lot cheaper, a lot less expensive, and more effective than simply warehousing people in prison. The bottom line is people say, lock them up and throw away the key. The problem is a very, very small percentage of your most egregious violent offenders are ever truly locked away for life or lose their life through capital punishment. The vast majority of people in the prison system will come out, and if they come out, how can we improve the percentage, improve the likelihood that they won't reoffend and create more victims?
Yeah, it's a great thing, great project, one that I know is being looked at not only here in Texas but throughout the nation as well. Chuck, tell folks how they can find more information, not only on Right on Crime but the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Well, sure thing. Of course, Right on Crime is rightoncrime.com, and you can find us with the Texas Public Policy Foundation at texaspolicy.com.
Excellent. Chuck, appreciate your time. We've been visiting with Chuck DeVore about tax cuts, also Right on Crime. If you haven't done a lot of research on Right on Crime, definitely check that out. And Chuck will visit with you again next week from Austin.
Looking forward to it.
All right, have a good one. That's Chuck DeVore.